Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of LawtrACTION. I have to apologize for the delay, but a lot of people have been anticipating this episode. And it has been a little bit difficult as well because we're talking about some of the richest people from Forbes. And one of the things that's actually happening is I have a very special guest tonight, and the person who's going to be sharing with you is an author of Get Unstuck, and she has interviewed numerous people, including CEOs of retail stores that you probably see every day. She's traveled the world, she has businesses, she's a coach, she's a mentor. Her schedule is super tight, super busy. I finally got a chance to get her in here. So her name is Andrea Ivanka. I'm actually going to be taking the camera away so that we'll be able to hear from her, okay? Okay, thanks, Andrea. So, Andrea, first of all, I want to thank you for taking the time to be part of an episode of LawtrACTION.
Thank you for having me, Satya. I really appreciate it. And hi to all of your viewers. If you've been following Satya, you know he's always full of good advice. He's looking at some of the top people in the world. So I'm here to share a little bit about some of these philanthropists with you today.
Exactly. So I know that this Forbes magazine, what you talk about is the billionaires. Yes, billionaires with a B. And when you have, there's a lot of misconception that people think when they hear about the rich, especially if somebody, the people who are extremely rich. I just want to get an who's been interviewing a lot of successful individuals, including yourself. So what you got the most out of this Forbes edition?
Well, I loved it because they were talking about the titans of philanthropy. And I think one of the biggest misconceptions that, well, it's twofold that I hear from people. One is that you don't need money for things, right? You don't need money to be happy. And we can all agree that some of the things in life, like being loved, being cared about, obviously money can't buy those things. But you think about all of these amazing philanthropic efforts that are out there, all of these great organizations that are helping start up businesses, that are helping things like opening schools, looking at caring for children that have parents that have all died of AIDS in Africa, looking after people that have been assaulted, food drives, all of those take money. They need people to work at them. They need money to stay open, to stay running, to pay administrative costs. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions out there is that somehow things will work without having money and that somehow money is a bad thing. And that leads into the second misconception, and that's about these people that have a lot of money that somehow they're evil or they're part of this like big corporate, I don't know, it's almost like some top secret thing that they're out to kind of rule the world, right? And one of the interesting things that I read about in Forbes magazine was just how many of these billionaires are giving away hundreds of millions, if not going into the billions of dollars towards aid around the world for all kinds of different causes. And some of these people you've probably heard of. You've probably heard of Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time. Most of you have heard Oprah, and her story is amazing. I'm going to talk about her. Bill Gates and Melinda Gates that have the foundation. And then there's all kinds of people that I'd never even heard of that are doing all kinds of things. So the big misconception is that somehow these people that have money are only in it for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I think that's something that definitely got shattered in this issue of Forbes magazine. It's a special 30th anniversary edition, and if you don't subscribe to Forbes or if you haven't read it, definitely pick it up because much like myself, I'm sure you'll read a few things that were shocking in here about what people are doing.
So what is one of the most shocking, I guess, things that you read about it? I know that because you're really focused on empowering women. You must have read a section of Oprah. I imagine she has a very interesting and phenomenal story behind it. If you don't know, I encourage you to learn more about it, or Andrea might talk about it a little bit on the next video. But what did you get out of the section, especially for Oprah?
Well, Oprah's got a very interesting history, which most people know about. And like Satya said, if you don't know Oprah's story, definitely go look it up. It's a very interesting story from where she came from, her roots. But what most people don't realize is it doesn't matter how much success you've had, you will still come up with adversity. And one of the things that Oprah did, I actually bookmarked this section, was she started a school in Africa. And you can see it's called The Education of Oprah Winfrey. And
Actually, can you hold it a little bit longer?
Yeah.
So there we go. It's her hands covering it a little bit, but it's The Education of Oprah Winfrey. Okay.
Oops. So this article is really amazing because it talked about all of the adversity that Oprah went through when she first opened her school in Africa. And it talked about these women that she really wanted to change their lives because a lot of them came from families where their income was literally less than $900 a year. So imagine what kind of a difference education would make in these girls' lives. But she came up against a lot. And there was a scandal when the school opened at the beginning of the year. And what really struck me was she didn't give up. This school ran her over $40 million. $40 million, that's a lot of money for one school. And this was some of the adverse publicity that she got was, why are you spending so much money on the school? Why are there chandeliers in the library? Why are there mosaic tiles up front? Why is there 200 thread count sheets? And her director of operations had this amazing quote in the article, and he said, simply put, when you're surrounded by beautiful things, you feel good. So it took almost 5 years for the school to be up and running properly because of all of the scandals that kind of hit. And it reminded me that it doesn't matter how much money you have, when you have a dream and you're passionate about it, you will make it work. Because I look at, let's say, yeah, you have all the money that she does, but millions and millions and millions of dollars being spent on one project. At what point would somebody say, that's it, I'm pulling the plug? That's enough. Why don't I go make a smaller school that's maybe not as luxurious, that's maybe not going to have as many students, that maybe isn't going to have so many scholarships? Maybe for $500,000, not $40 million. So what really struck me was that the path to success, it doesn't end. You hit one milestone, and there's so much more you can do. And so Oprah's story really hit me because she didn't give up on these girls, and now they're going to university, they're getting an education, and these are the girls that are the future. These are the girls that are going to be empowered to say, wow, there are people in this world that care and that use their money to make the world a better place. So what do you think those girls are going to do when they in turn become successful and have money?
Exactly. So, excellent. This actually ties in to one of the things that Andrea and I are actually working together. It's a joint venture. I'm very happy with this. We have something where an event's going to come up, and one of the things that we thought about was originally just have an original event, but then we started to thinking about a little bit upscale, about more luxury. So, Andrea, I know we touched a little bit upon it, so why don't you tell the viewers a little bit of what they'll be getting into this?
Okay. So, as Satya said, this is something that we've been talking about for a little while. We've been cooking up, and we've been talking to some amazing vendors around Toronto and some different people. So most people can go to a workshop, most people can go to a networking event, maybe sometimes for $10 or $15. And that's not to say that ours is going to be so expensive that you can't come, but we definitely are going to be creating an event where it's going to be all about you and you feeling good. Sometimes, like these students at Oprah's school where they had luxurious sheets to sleep on, you need an evening for yourself where it's about getting recentered on the things that are important to you, but just to be surrounded by something a little bit nicer than the regular environment that you'd be in, just to show you what's possible. So much the way Oprah wanted to show these girls what was possible in life, Satya and I want to put on an amazing evening for you that's just going to open up your mind to dreaming bigger and living better. So stay tuned for details, the date, and the location. We're keeping it a secret just for now, but we'll be letting you know where it is soon.
All right, and the last thing is, what I always say, LawtrACTION requires
action. This is Andrea and Satya, since Satya's behind the camera, saying goodbye, and make sure you subscribe down below to LawtrACTION. Take care.